Yeah, all right. Look, hey y'all, I'm at work. They got me in the boss office right now. So my Jamaican coworker just threw this shit at me. I don't know what it mean. I don't know what it is. I'ma show y'all and y'all tell me what it mean. But me and this bitch, it's got into it. I'm finna go home before I end up whooping this Jamaican asshole for throwing this motherfucking shit at me. But I know it's symbolic. I just don't know what it mean. Y'all tell me. Hold on. So if anybody know voodoo, know what this mean, y'all hit me, tell me what I need to do to cleanse myself, cause it did hit me when she threw it. I don't know how the head came off the motherfucker. So y'all please help me. Yeah.
Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash, and double honors and respect to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me this truth, as well as much respect and honors to the brothers that are pushing this truth in sincerity across the four winds of this earth and risking their lives and freedom to do so. I would also like to give much honors and respect to the brothers and sisters that are of the hopeful elect, that are doing their very best to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High to the best of their abilities. Shalom. As you saw in this short video that I just shared with you, you have this Jake right here. Here it is. He was saying that he was at work, okay, and he had gotten into it with a coworker. He was saying that this coworker was a Jamaican lady, and so more than likely she was a Benjamite, an Eve from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, well, anyway, you saw what he was saying, okay, in the video. Okay, this Eve right here, what she did was she threw a dead pigeon at him, okay, and as you saw in the video, the pigeon, his head was severed and whatnot. Here it is in this still photo. You can see the pigeon's head, okay, laying on the floor. And look like there's some corn or something like that beside it and whatnot. Okay, well, anyway, you had this Eve, okay, she threw this at this Jake. Okay, and so, more than likely, okay, this Eve, she's into witchcraft. Okay, that's what this is. This is witchcraft. And what this Eve is more than likely trying to do is trying to basically cast a spell on this Jake. Okay, to basically try to cause harm to him. Okay, and see, this right here is wicked as hell. Calling on left-handed spirits, being involved in witchcraft and whatnot. And see, here it is. You have a lot of our women, they're into this. You have a lot of our women over here in Babylon the Great, as well as other parts of the world where our people are scattered. You have a lot of our women that are into this madness. Okay. But over here in Babylon the Great, you have a lot of our women. They're into this, this black magic. They're into witchcraft and whatnot. They're into all forms of wickedness and whatnot. And again, this right here is wickedness. Okay. Because this right here is dealing with left-hand spirits, and we don't supposed to be, dealing with left-hand spirits and whatnot. But here it is. I can even remember when I was a young man. I think I was no more than maybe 19, 20 years old. I used to deal with this Eve, okay, around that time. And this is before I came into the truth. I was like maybe 19, 20 years old. And this Eve, she had an auntie, okay, that was into witchcraft. And, here it is, her auntie, would basically try to do certain things to basically try to keep a man in her life. Anyway, this auntie of hers, was dealing with this man, okay, this Jake. And here it is to basically try to keep this Jake around. Okay, whenever she would fix his food and everything like that, okay, she would put her cycle, discharge, in the man's food. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, but she would do this. Her auntie would do this. She would do this, to try to basically try to put a spell on that man, to try to keep that man, okay, around. Well, anyway, it didn't work, okay, because the man, he eventually left. He didn't stick around. But, here it is, this Eve that I was dealing with, her auntie was known for doing things like this right here. And here it is, again, this was before I came into the truth. I was no more than maybe 19, 20 years old. When I would go, and visit this Eve, family, like during the holidays and stuff like that, when I would go over there, here it is, you would be hearing, people whispering amongst themselves. And whenever that Eve's auntie came over and she brought some food over and everything like that, you would be hearing people whispering and whatnot. They would be like, hey, don't eat that because, the auntie, she made that. And here it is, the Eve that I was dealing with, she would tell me, hey, stay clear of that. Don't eat that right there. because my auntie made it. And, she's into, putting her cycle into people's food and whatnot. But, you have a lot of our women that are into this madness. They're into witchcraft and whatnot, trying to cast spells on people and whatnot, trying to cause harm to people and whatnot. Here it is, even as a young child. I think I was probably no more than maybe 6, 7 years of age. I can even remember my parents. They were talking about women that lived in our community to basically, they was telling our siblings, my siblings and I, to basically stay clear of these women. Okay, I was no more than maybe 6, 7 years old, but I would overhear my parents, talking, and they would be like, hey, you need to stay clear of that person. She offer you something, don't take it. But anyway, there were women in our community, that was basically into witchcraft and whatnot. Okay. I even, from what I can remember, even at that time, I think I even had some family members, okay, that was into witchcraft and whatnot. Also, too, and see, speaking of family members, here it is. I want to say it was either the earlier part of this year or it may have been the later part of last year. I had a family member, she got called out, okay, about, being involved in witchcraft. She got called out on social media, okay, embarrassed her too. She got called out about, being into witchcraft, into tarot card readings and whatnot, and calling on, left-hand spirits and whatnot. She got called out, and it's not hard to believe, okay, because I know this cousin, and and she, you just got to stand on the truth and call it like it is. She's a demon, and so it's not hard at all to believe. But again, you have a lot of our women that are into this type of madness, okay? And so with that being said, men of Israel, again, you got to be very careful when you're dealing with these women out here. Because again, the majority of our women, over here in Babylon the Great, they're through, okay? The majority of our women over here, they got Satan on them and whatnot, I saw this, this short video right here, and I just thought that I would bring out a quick lesson. I'm going to go ahead and go to the scriptures. The first scripture I actually want to go to is in the book of 1 John, and this is chapter 3, and this is verse 4. And it reads, whosoever committed sin transgresseth the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. And see, here it is, being involved in witchcraft, calling on left-hand spirits and whatnot. That's sin. That's going off, okay? That's wicked in the eyes of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. And see, here it is, a lot of our people, they're into this madness. Okay, and not just women. You even got men that's into, calling on left-hand spirits and whatnot. But again, this is totally going off. Okay? And see, this is why, the majority of our people over here in Babylon the Great, or wherever else they're scattered, they're catching hell. Okay, because, they keep transgressing against the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. They're into all types of wickedness and whatnot. Here it is over here in Babylon the Great. You have a lot of our people that are getting shot down in the streets. Okay, a lot of our people, they perish of harsh deaths and whatnot. Okay, they get caught into all types of, calamities. They get taken out by different types of, pesticides and whatnot. They die, they perish of harsh deaths, and that's because they transgressing against the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Okay, and see, here it is. This is why we're in the situation we're in right now. This is why we're catching hell over here in Babylon the Great and wherever else we're scattered, because the majority of our people, they want to partake in wickedness. Okay, they want to transgress against the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. And again, partaking in witchcraft, calling on left-hand spirits and whatnot. That's totally going off. But you got a lot of our women that are partaking in this madness. And again, this is why the majority of our women over here in Babylon the Great, they're gonna fall over here in Babylon the Great, because they're into all types of wickedness and whatnot, and they don't want to come out of it. Okay. This is the book of Exodus, and this is chapter 34, and this is verse 14. And it reads, for thou shalt worship no other gods. Salakia. For thou shalt worship no other God, for the Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, whose name is jealous, is a jealous power. And that's right. Okay. Again, calling on left-hand spirits, worshiping, false idols and deities and whatnot. That's totally going off. But you got a lot of our people that are into this. Okay. You got a lot of our people that are calling on other, they're calling on false gods and idols and whatnot. Okay. You got a lot of our people that are calling on, the gods of these heathens and whatnot. Okay. Again, you have a lot of our people that are dealing with left-hand spirits and whatnot. Okay, they're dealing with, this thing called black magic and whatnot. Totally going off. It says, Exodus chapter 34 and verse 14 again, it says, for thou shalt worship no other God. For the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah, whose name is jealous, is a jealous power. And that's right. Okay, because the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah is a jealous power. And those by people who are, calling on other gods, they're worshiping false idols and whatnot. Okay, they're into left-handed spirits and whatnot. If they don't come out of that, the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah is going to destroy them. Because the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah is a jealous power. Okay. And see, and it's no different than, let's just say, if a man has a woman, okay, and that woman, I'm saying, she's basically trying to she's basically saying dealing with another man, or she's basically flirting with another man and whatnot. Okay, her man is going to get upset. He's going to get jealous behind that. Okay, that's same with the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah, calling on false gods and idols, calling on these other gods and idols and whatnot. Okay, that's totally going off in the eyes of the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah. And again, the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah is a jealous power. And again, those by people who are partaking in this, calling on other gods and idols, those by people who are calling on left-hand spirits and whatnot, those by people who are into black magic and whatnot. Okay, they're setting themselves up to meet the wrath of the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah. Okay. Let's go to, I want to go to the book of Deuteronomy. And this is chapter, I actually want to start in verse 10 though. This is Deuteronomy chapter 18, and I actually want to start in verse 10. And it reads, there shall be, Salakia. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 10, it says, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch. Okay, and see, it says, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or daughter pass through the fire. Okay, and see, passing through the fire, that means, doing, blood sacrifices and whatnot. Okay, for deities and idols and whatnot, because you had a lot of our people, they're into this. They were into this, okay, during that time. And even to this day, okay, you have a lot of our people that are into this. You have a lot of our women, okay, they're doing this right now, okay, by running down to Esau's Planned Parenthood clinics and aborting our seeds, okay? They're passing our seeds through the fire and whatnot. It says, or that useth divination or observer of times, okay? And see, divination or observer of times, that's like, dealing with fortune tellers, dealing with psychics, dealing with tarot card readers and whatnot. Okay, totally going off. But you have a lot of our people that are into this. Okay, you had a lot of our people that they were into it back then. Okay, during the time of Moses, and you have a lot of our people that are still into this madness, today. Okay, it says, or that uses divination or observer of times, or an enchanter or a witch. Okay, and see, an enchanter is someone who, who's enchanting, different, left-hand spirits and whatnot, deities and idols and whatnot. Okay, it says, or a witch, and see, a witch, that's someone who's into witchcraft, someone who's into calling on familiar spirits and whatnot, someone who's into casting spells on people and whatnot. Okay, someone who's into, black magic, totally going off. We do not supposed to be partaking in these things. Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 11, it says, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. Okay. And so again, these are basically individuals, who are dealing with, left-hand spirits. And the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah is against these things. And, those of us that are of the hopeful elect, we're also against these things. Because again, it's totally going off. Verse 12, it says, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah. And because of these abominations, the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah, thy power, though drive them out from before thee. Okay, and see again, partaking in these wicked things, partaking in these left-hand spirits and whatnot, that's going off. Okay, that's wicked in the eyes of the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah. And again, those of our people who are partaking in witchcraft, those are of our people who are, dealing with these left-hand spirits and whatnot, they're going to meet the wrath of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shah. And again, you have a lot of our women, they're partaking in this madness. Okay, a lot of our women over here in Babylon the Great, they're partaking in this. And again, this is why the majority of our women over here in Babylon the Great, okay, they're going to eat a nuclear missile. They're going to get caught into the evils and the calamities. Okay, the majority of our women over here in Babylon the Great, they're going to fall into that 2/3 category, which is going to be destroyed over here. The 2/3 of our people, they're going to fall over here. And again, that 2/3 is going to consist of mainly women, a lot of women, majority women. I'll say it like that. Okay. Only the elect man, lady, and children will have that hedge of protection over them and will be delivered before this place is ultimately destroyed. Okay, let's go to the book of, this is Exodus, and this is chapter 22, and this is verse 18. And it reads, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live." And that's right, because here it is, if we were in our own land, an Eve, like this one that was in the video that threw this dead pigeon at this Jake, she would get put to death. Okay, because what she's involved in witchcraft. And again, no, she's basically calling on left-handed spirits, okay, bringing evil into the land and whatnot. And that's totally going off. Okay. But see, here it is over here in Babylon the Great. You got the wicked that's bearing rule. And that wicked is Esau Edom. And he allows this type of madness to go on over here. Okay, he allows, for women to be witches and for men to be warlocks and whatnot. Okay, Esau, he partakes in this madness and whatnot. And see, this is why, America, also known as Babylon the Great, it's going to be destroyed with thermonuclear missiles. It's going to be burned up. Okay. And, here it is, 2/3 of our people, right along with the rest of these heathens and these Edomites, they're going to burn up over here in Babylon the Great in the day of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Abashah, because of all the wickedness that goes on over here. Okay. Let's go to 1 Samuel, and this is chapter 15, this is verse 23. And it reads, "For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as inequity and idolatry, because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Abashah, he had also rejected thee from being king." Okay, and see, this right here, it describes the 2/3 of our people, because 2/3 of our people over here in Babylon the Great, they're rebellious. Okay, you got 2/3 of our people that are into all types of wickedness. Okay, you have, a lot of our people that are into sorcery, they're into witchcraft. Okay, they're into idolatry, they're into all types of wickedness, okay, that's being pushed out over here in Babylon the Great, and they don't want to come up out of it. Okay, and see, as a result of that, this is why 2/3 of our people are going to fall over here in Babylon the Great, right along with these Edomites and the rest of these heathens. Okay, because of the wickedness that they're partaking in. And again, you have a lot of our women over here, they're partaking in this witchcraft and whatnot, totally going off. Okay, calling on left-handed spirits, okay, dealing with black magic and whatnot. You have a lot of Eves, okay, that are doing this. A lot of Southern Kingdom Eves that are doing this over here in Babylon the Great. Totally going off. Okay. We'll end off in the book of Revelation, chapter 21, this is verse 8. And it reads, "But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone," which is the second death. Okay, and see, this is talking about those thermonuclear missiles, okay, that's going to annihilate Babylon the Great and all these wicked people over here. Okay, it says the fearful and unbelieving. Okay, and see, you can find all of these amongst the 2/3 of our people. It says the abominable and the murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers. Okay, sorcerers, those of our people who are dealing with left-handed spirits and whatnot. Okay, like how this Eve that threw that unalive pigeon at that Jake. Okay, she's dealing with left-handed spirits and whatnot, sorcery. It says, "And idolatries and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone," which is the second death. And again, all of these can be found amongst the 2/3 of our people over here in Babylon the Great, and wherever else a lot of our people are scattered, because you have a lot of our people, wherever they're scattered, a lot of our people are into wickedness. They're into all forms of wickedness. Okay, and they don't want to come up out of it. And see, again, this is why the Lord is going to destroy 2/3 of our people over here in Babylon the Great. And those of our people, wherever they're scattered, wherever they're at, if they're into wickedness and whatnot, they're going to meet the wrath of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Abashah. Okay, And so, I'm going to go ahead and end off here. I saw this video and I just thought that I would bring out a quick lesson. Hopefully it was edifying. Once again, I want to give all honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and double honors and respect to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, Kwam Yasharala Nabal Baba. Shalom.